A Court of Blood and Bindings, Chapter 20, Short Summary. Previously, Em and Creon had their big fight, and Em went to explore the forbidden labyrinth by herself. She is caught by Ophion, one of Mother's henchmen. Ophion brings Em and Creon to trial before the evil Fey Queen. Ophion accuses Creon of being a traitor, with evidence that Creon and Em have been digging around for information on the forbidden labyrinth. Creon chooses to take all the blame, allowing Emelin to plead innocence. Creon is tortured and chained up in the throne room for everyone to see, while Emelin is free to plot how to rescue him. Detailed summary. Ophion catches Emelin exploring the forbidden labyrinth by herself. Emelin tries to play dumb and continue her silly little human act to deceive Ophion. Ophion tells her that entering the labyrinth is a capital crime, punishable by death. Emelin pleads ignorance and says the door is simply open, but they notice she's holding her map. Em claims it was just common sense to make a map, and Ophion is confused enough to order one of his men to get Creon to corroborate her story. Ophion decides to drag her to Mother for judgment. The reconciliation between Creon and Emelin begins when, on the way there, Emelin suddenly realizes it makes no sense that she accused Creon of manipulating her emotions with demon magic, since you cannot accuse someone who is mind-controlling you. Like a schoolboy, Ophion tattles on Emelin to Mother, saying he found her exiting the labyrinth and that Creon has been checking out books on the labyrinth according to library staff. Em tries to stall and buy time for Creon to show up, admitting that she did see the books, but she can't read the Fey language, so she only liked the pretty pictures. Em repeats her lie that the door was already open and that she didn't know it was forbidden to enter. Creon finally shows up, and Em instantly gets super horny for him, even though it's a life or death situation. It's a body betrays me trope moment, which fits in with the theme of romance books often portraying dubious consent. What was I doing? What was my body doing to me? It was supposed to be a lie, this merciless attraction, this need I felt. But my eyes clung to him as he approached, to his swift, slender fingers, and his night-black eyes, and the contours of muscles below his shirt and trousers, and a painfully familiar sting of twisted desire burnt through me, as if it had never been gone. With both of them about to be possibly tortured and executed, it's a really bizarre moment to get horny, but it actually fits with the purity culture throughout the book. The body betrays me trope is designed to make a woman seem like she's trying to resist the immorality of sexual attraction. It implies she knows premarital sex is immoral, and thus it's a virtue signal to the reader. I know being horny is wrong, but my body is betraying me. This whole scene where Emelin and Creon are on trial together serves as their reconciliation after their big fight in the previous chapter. Mother asks Creon to explain why Em was in the forbidden labyrinth. In a form of trauma bonding while both of them are on trial together, now Emelin feels full of rage on Creon's behalf at how cruel Mother has always been to Creon, binding him, forcing him to murder, and taking away his voice. In a moment of total sympathy, Em suddenly begins recalling all the validating reassurances Creon gave her at the end of chapter 13. Keep in mind that Creon is not actually apologizing to her here. She has to fabricate an apology in her head by having flashbacks to when he was nice to her that one time. With Ophion's report that Creon and Em have been gathering books on the labyrinth, Mother concludes that Em broke into the labyrinth deliberately. Creon says, not going to defend her, and his callousness amuses Mother, but secretly he hand signs to Em over and over, blame me. This fits in as a performance of his gender role. It's a women and children exit on the lifeboats first moment. In a time of life or death, the man is supposed to take the fall so that the woman can live. It's also a grand gesture. It's way easier and more masculine for Creon to take the blame at this trial, rather than do all the hard work of being emotionally available and clearly communicating to Emelin. Throughout the entire book, he was aloof, distant, suffering in secret, and would often withhold the truth from Emelin, assuming he was the only one strong enough to take on the burdens. Now we're supposed to forgive him because he puts his life on the line in this key moment, when he's just been flying off and doing his own thing while Emelin begs him not to go, begs him for explanations for the other 99% of the book. Anyways, Em, desperately hoping Creon has a plan, blames Creon and says he told her to go in, but that she doesn't understand why. Mother compels Creon to talk, but he refuses, so she begins torturing him with magical attacks, while asking Em if she should spare him for betraying Em. Em is confused as to whether or not Creon has any plan, but he signals kill me, so Em suggests Mother kill Creon. Mother, being a contrarian, then decides not to kill Creon, so she asks Em what to do with him instead. Em suggests putting Creon on display as a warning to other betrayers, and Mother loves the idea. Creon is chained up in the hall for everyone to see, putting hooks through his sensitive wing membranes. Em pretends to giggle and nod in delight at Creon's punishment. This is like one of those James Bond moments where the villain does some intricate plan to make the hero suffer, which then gives the hero an opportunity to eventually escape, instead of just double tapping the hero on the spot and being done with it. It's especially unclear as to why Mother would even ask Emelin for her opinion, because the Fae regard human like cockroaches in general. Most Fae would think it's beneath them to even ask a human for their opinion, even if it's for the purpose of sadistically doing the opposite. The chapter ends with Em asking Mother for a favor, which she entertains. This is a contrived plot device to give Emelin a chance to concoct a rescue plan for Creon. Em boldly proclaims that she will gift Mother a proper substitute for the tribute she never received from the island of Cathra if she is allowed one night of undisturbed preparation. Mother accepts, giving Em one unsupervised night to prepare. This part makes no sense because Ophion would at least volunteer to watch Em, if only to delight in tormenting her. Instead, Thysandra is assigned to drop Em off at Creon's house, unsupervised. Analysis. Chapter 20 is the pivot point between Emelin and Creon's breakup in Chapter 19, and their union against the evil Fae Queen Mother. Creon takes the blame to prove his loyalty to Emelin and reconcile with her. Creon hand-signaling "blame me" is an exaggerated masculine performance. It's a shortcut designed to restore his image as noble protector, even though he neglected Emelin throughout most of the story. Instead of doing the hard work of consistent intimacy, listening, sharing, being vulnerable, his masculinity is framed as a grand gesture of self-sacrifice, pain, and more suffering in silence. Even though the author clearly wants Emelin to be perceived as quick-thinking by negotiating for Creon to be tortured instead of killed, the key moment is when Creon actively chooses to take the blame. This means the situation unfolds through Creon's choice, while Emelin is left to react, re-establishing the romance's unequal power dynamic. This self-sacrifice trope is common in dark romantasy. MMC proves his love not through consistent communication and stable partnership, but through a grand gesture of bleeding for the FMC. The body betrays me trope rears its ugly head again in this chapter, when Emelin gets bizarrely horny in a situation where both of them are in great danger. In purity culture, desire is coded as involuntary and sinful. Em resists, therefore she is good or pure. Throughout the book, the contrived situations where Em gets horny, especially when she is in front of the evil Fae Queen, ties back to the ongoing blurring of agency versus coercion. If Emelin actively chooses to enjoy sex, that would make her a slut or whore in the eyes of purity culture. Emelin is constantly afraid of becoming a Fae whore instead of just performing as one. So instead of enthusiastic consent, we have contrived scenes where she performs as Creon's sex slave under threat of death and gets inexplicably horny under absurd circumstances. There are moments when Creon insists that he won't do anything sexual until Emelin does it first, but these take place in a context similar to Stockholm Syndrome. Creon has abducted Emelin and has a massive power imbalance over her, so when the author tries to pretend that he isn't forcing her to do anything, it backfires and unintentionally comes across as extra manipulative, given the situation he's put her in. Creon's sacrifice, his martyrdom, serves to enforce a cycle. First, he's aloof most of the time. Then when Em is finally going to be done with him, he comes back with a grand gesture, thus validating all of the one-sided emotional labor Em had to do to maintain their relationship. It feels less like a fulfilling and equal partnership and more like Emelin is paying into an insurance policy. Emelin has to keep paying her monthly premiums of emotional labor in the hopes that Creon will come through with a big payout during an emergency with some kind of grand gesture. There's only 2 more chapters left, and if you're wondering how the author wraps up the plot to assassinate Mother and finishes the reconciliation between Em and Creon in a satisfying way, spoiler alert, she doesn't, not quite in a satisfactory way. The ending will feel rushed and unsatisfying, with a Deus Ex Machina plot device.